Welcome to the Let's Have a Chat podcast. I'm Shalane, a best-selling new release author as well as a life and recovery coach. I was inspired to host this podcast to continue to share my story, but to ultimately connect with others on a more soulful level, as communication is key to understanding ourselves and those around us. We're going to chat about substance use, parenting, business, setbacks, but ultimately breakthroughs. So let's dive in. Take what you need and leave the rest. Thanks for being here. Now let's have a chat. And welcome everyone to today's episode of Let's Have a Chat. I have Alyssa Braid with me, and this is a conversation, especially if you're a mother, that you do not want to miss. She's the author of Mommy Needs a Minute. And let me tell you, Mommy needed a minute before I could talk with Alyssa. When we had our first scheduled podcast recording day, I was actually going through a miscarriage at the time. And as much as I like to keep my commitments and honor my responsibilities, I also had to honor myself and take the time that I needed to just be and not be with anyone else. So, Alyssa, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that we can finally connect and we can talk about it. And your book couldn't have come at a better time in my life. I think I emailed you. I was in the bath and I emailed you a picture of your book and I was reading it. I dog-eared so many pages, and this needs to be a best-selling book. New York, pick this up because it is worth it. I swear to goodness, there's so much valuable content and information in here that I feel can just help the masses on a whole. Thank you for your journey to get to this book out in print, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. I'm so honored to chat with you. I've been looking forward to it for weeks. So glad that the book came at a point in your life where you needed it. I really believe in destiny and
Totally.
things coming. The universe gives us what we need when we need it. And sometimes you just need to sit still with a book. And I'm so glad that my journey was helpful for you in your own season of motherhood and some really challenging things that come with it.
I love that term, and maybe it's just trendy in the past couple of years, but season, a season of our life, right? We think of seasons as winter and spring, fall, but we do have seasons in our lives, and they change. And my husband hates when I say this, but the only constant in life is change, right? He's very he loves routine, he loves organization, he loves things to stay the same. But it's so true that the only constant in this world is change. And if we try to resist that change or fight against that change, then that's where there can be resistance.
Yes,
Right?
I feel like that there's nothing you can do about it. It just really depends how you want to adjust your internal self to embrace it or fight it every step of the way. But there's nothing you can do to stop the force of the universe and the earth moving around you.
Totally. And it's so true. And key point you just made, it's choice. It's choice. You can either choose to go with the flow or you can choose to resist it. But it's going to fucking happen either way.
Yeah. It just depends how much pain you want to experience through the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't even know where to start in talking about the dog ears in the book. Maybe we can just start at my first tab here and see where that leads us. And if it's okay with you, if I have your permission, if I can read a little bit from it and then we can chat about it.
Yes, I would love that. Please go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. So the first thing is about advice. And you didn't say this in the book, but I say it. And advice is like assholes. Everybody's got one. Right?
It's true.
And it's so true. So you say, instead of thinking that advice not be right for us, we think something is wrong with us. Living and especially parenting from a place of inauthenticity creates disconnect in your soul. And you can't ignore disconnect in your soul. I absolutely love that. We think something is wrong with us when we get advice. That's powerful right there. Right? Someone's opinion of us is really none of our business.
Yes, and I think that's one of the hardest things with parenting, especially because it's such a new role. It's something you haven't had time to grow into as a young mother yet or adjust to. And so when that happens, we often look for assurance and for people to tell us we're either meeting the mark or not meeting the mark. Even think of when you have a new job and you're looking for your supervisor to tell you if you're meeting the expectations or if you're falling behind. And so I think it's really easy and you're very vulnerable when you first become a parent. And you're looking for everyone's advice to tell you, am I doing an okay job? Because if I screw this up, this has colossal repercussions. This is a small life. And so it's really easy to internalize all of the opinions and think, well, so-and-so is a great parent, or so-and-so says this, or the psychology experts who've been studying child-parent relationships for years say to do this, and it's not working for me. And that must mean that I'm the problem because I don't know what I'm talking about. And all these people with years of experience clearly do.
And that can lead to so much chaos in your mind, in your heart, and in your soul when you have all of these opinions coming at you, right? And like a lot of the times you need a quick fix to like fix whatever this problem is. But when you have all this information coming at you, it's like, where do I turn to? What is valid? What is right for me? And you talk about instinct versus intuition in your book. Are you able to, putting you on the spot here, but able to differentiate the two, instinct from intuition?
I think in my mind, I feel like your instinct and your intuition kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Like that mother's instinct, that mother's intuition. You know things inherently about your child that really nobody else knows. And that maternal instinct and intuition is different than the external advice. Baby-led weaning might be perfect for all of your friends, but if it doesn't align with you and your baby, that's okay because there's never been another human being on the world like you. And there's never been another human being on the world that's exactly like your child. So we're trying to take these generalities that seem to work for the general population and apply them to ourselves instead of leaning into our intuition and remembering that this baby holds pieces of your DNA and pieces of the baby's DNA are a part of you. They will be a part of your body for years to come. And that's not something to take lightly. It actually is a biological change that happens that helps give us, for lack of a better word, a sixth sense about what our baby needs. And sometimes we get so overwhelmed in the chaos that if you take a minute and pause and relax, and calm yourself down and take a minute to make a choice. Like we go back to that, the power of choice, choosing to be present in the moment. And a lot of times I found you intuitively know what your baby needs. A lot of the this is obviously not an excuse to not take your child to the pediatrician or the dentist. If something's wrong, please make sure they're getting the care they need. But things like what sleep training method you want to use, what feeding method you want to use, if you want to breastfeed or not breastfeed. These are all things that are really personal to you. And while there might be a textbook ideal, that textbook ideal might not be the ideal for your life. And if that happens, it's not sustainable for you and it's not sustainable for your baby. And the stress and pressure that you're under translates to stress and pressure for your child. And then it's not the best solution, even if on paper it looks perfect.
So you mentioned two terms, baby-led weaning and sleep training. So I have 4 children. They're 16, 13, 3, and 2. And with my 3 and my 2-year-old, I joined Facebook groups. It was like October babies of 2021 and March babies 2021 and October babies 2022. And these Facebook groups weren't around for my babies born in 2008 and 2011. So I had never heard up until 3 and 2 years ago, or 3 and 4 years ago, baby-led weaning and sleep training. I'm like, are you talking about sleep training? I didn't sleep train my child or like my firstborn. I just kind of put them to bed. Like I wasn't aware of these terms. And I think because the influence that social media can have on our parenting, on our relationships, on our lives, that it leads to questioning our own internal and or maternal instincts. Because I was 23 when I had my first, and I was 26 when I had my second, and nobody told me. We didn't need a pediatrician. We had no need to see one, but nobody told me about baby-led weaning. Like, what does that even mean, right? So I think to be mindful and or curious about the information that comes in from outside sources, and then to really just like tap into how do I truly feel about this um, not what do I feel about this because of what this person is saying, if that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. And I often wonder if, like, I've chatted with my grandma who she was like, the only parenting book I had was The Neighbor Next Door, or the parenting advice was The Neighbor Next Door and the book I got from the library.
Yeah.
And she was like, in some ways, she felt completely overwhelmed because she was like, I don't have all the answers I want. But on the other end, it also felt like there wasn't somebody judging every step of every choice she made and what she decided to do for her babies and her family because there was no comparisons. There was no social media to check or groups to go and check and say, well, no one else is doing it this way, or everyone's telling me I'm a terrible person for even thinking this is okay for my baby. And I think sometimes the age of technology, like you said, gives us so much wonderful information, terms that we weren't aware of, things that we can be aware of to improve as parents and as people and parent and mother better. But it also gives a whole door to information overwhelm. I call it like information burnout in the book. It's too much. It's too much information, too many opinions. And then you're like, well, it all sounds good. And everyone's trying to convince me that if I don't do it this way, I have destined my child for a life of obesity, not being able to
And
sleep.
then you're living in that fear.
Yes.
Right? Like this future fear of something that may or may not happen that probably won't happen.
Yes. And all based on a choice that I remember like crying to my husband, saying to him, I was like, I need to make the right choice with what food we start our son on. And I was like, what do you think? Bananas or sweet potatoes, or should we do something like not as sweet? And he goes, well, why does it make a big difference? They're all nutritional. And I was like, well, if we start with something sweet, he'll be destined for a life of obesity. That's what they told me.
Diabetes. Yeah.
Yep. He's getting diabetes. It'll be my fault. He'll go to counseling. He'll tell the counselor it was me with my bananas.
And look at the spiral that you just put yourself in, right?
Exactly. And I think it's crazy how in the moment when we're so emotionally charged and so much fear drives our decisions because we want what's best for our children, we don't even realize till we're listening to somebody else say it, or we step back. That's like, what am I doing? Really? Do I really think they're going to end up in counseling because I gave them bananas instead of like broccoli for their first food? I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially as like young moms or like new moms, right? Really question every single decision you think is going to shape their entire future if they're going to get a college degree or a university degree. Okay, chapter 1, information burnout. You have some fantastic takeaways here. We are overwhelmingly over-resourced when it comes to information, but entirely under-resourced when it comes to the kind of support that would allow us to do something with that information. What support are you referring to there?
I think it's a little different. I know you're in Calgary, Alberta, or Airdrie, Alberta, close to Calgary. And here in the States, our maternity leave is very different. Your maternity leave is the employer only has to give you 6 weeks. They're just now pushing that it has to be paid. Previously, it was like, oh, we'll just hold your job for you for 6 weeks. And if you're not back, your bum in the chair. At 6 weeks, we can fire you. So I've had quite a few moms who at 6 weeks, your baby's so small, they're getting sick, they're going to daycare. It's really hard to breastfeed. You're a new mom. It's very stressful. I had 2 friends lose their jobs because their child was sick because they were going to daycare and they were so little, and their employer was like, too bad, we'll just replace you. So I think specifically I was talking from my perspective of living in the United States and having lived in Canada, and seeing just the different value that's placed on family, the value of bonding with your child, the value of being able to stay home. In addition to that, I feel like as a country, I'll speak specifically for the United States, we're a very nuclear unit. We move for jobs, we move for new opportunities. That means we often don't have family or a strong community support system around. So when your child gets sick, when there's an accident, when there's an emergency, now it all falls on your shoulder. It's all on you. So a lot of these ideal techniques that experts recommend when it comes to your children involve a lot of time, energy, and resources. And it's something that a parent who's working 10 hours a day and doesn't have any external support, or is 6 weeks postpartum and their body is still hasn't even adjusted
still recovering.
Yet. Still recovering.
Like some women are still bleeding at 6 weeks.
At 6 weeks. So when that happens, it's like, oh, I would love to implement this. And now I feel overwhelmed because I physically don't have the time the energy or the people or the support network needed to actually make this sustainable. And many women I know, we try all of these different things trying to make it work, and we walk away feeling inadequate as though we've failed our children, when in reality, we're living in a society that really sets us up for failure. Obviously, you need to make kids so that the next generation grows, but we're not in an environment where it's rewarded. You're penalized at your job for it. It makes finances so much harder. It makes insurance go through the roof. It makes food costs are really high. The support network isn't there, especially if you live in a more rural community where there's a lot of resources and poverty is really high. So it, as a whole, I feel as a country, we really don't have a lot of resources in place to build a strong family unit. And that shows up with economic struggles, with children who are misbehaving, with the criminal justice system, in all these different facets of our society. The family unit not being valued is impacting many areas.
And having affordable and accessible childcare should
Yes.
be, I think, a priority. Number one, whether the childcare is a daycare, day home, or even having a nanny, like a mother's helper in the home. One of my second job, my first job was a cashier at Canadian Tire, but my second job, I was 18 and I was a nanny to a mother, and she had started out with 2 children. And by the time I left, she had 4. And I remember people saying, because she stayed at home, and I remember people saying, well, she doesn't have a job. She's not working. Why does she need you? Why does she need a nanny? Because she had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old and had a C-section and had a house to run, and she was on mat leave from her job. And you can help.
You
You need help, and that's okay. Like, we can't be expected as mothers to do it all.
And I love that you say that, because I think that's a big point, the shame that's associated with asking for help, especially as a mother. What do you mean you can't do it all? You don't have a real job. This is your job. You should be able to do it.
It is such a real job.
Yes, exactly. And so that shame that's kind of embedded deep within us, that you're especially failing as a mom if you need to ask for help. And the worst part is, a lot of it comes from other women. Well, I worked a full-time job and had my kids and had no help. So the fact that you have no job and need help, what's wrong with you?
That's a tough one.
Yes, that's even as a society. I'm like, oh, we're instilling these values so deeply that we're willing to turn on other women when we know personally how hard it is. And we're the first ones casting that judgment.
And I'm willing to bet those women who are speaking ill of the other women, that's a facade. It's fucking fake.
It has to be.
If anybody has had a child, and sure, you did it, you had a job, and you're raising your children or whatever, and it's still hard.
Yes.
It is hard.
And it's okay to say it's hard. It doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. Like, it is. It's just hard.
Yeah. And absolutely. Before we get into chapter 2, I would love to go through this whole book and just dissect the whole book, but our listeners can and should just go out and buy it, because there's so much in here. But I want to talk about chapter 2, mental health burnout, which is, I don't know, is it an epidemic, or like at this point it's just astronomical how women, mommies, we're talking about mommies, men get burnout too. I'm not putting down the men here, but the mental health burnout that we are experiencing, trying to cook the meals and care for the children, get them to school, get them to the doctor's appointments, set up the play dates for their own mental health, and do all these things, right? But before we get into chapter 2, why did you write this book? What is your fucking story?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that. Why are you here?
So I wrote this book because I was the mommy in all of these chapters. Every area of burnout was where I was burned out and struggling, trying to do it all and be it all, working full time, also having my children. At the time, right before I wrote this book, I was just finishing my master's degree. I had my little guy was 5 months old. We just bought a house that was a little bit above our budget that we were squeaking by to get out of a 1-bedroom apartment. And my husband had a vasectomy, and it obviously didn't work because I found out unexpectedly.
Yes, baby. Yeah.
I was pregnant. So my son was when I found out, he was only 5 months old at the time. We just bought this house. I was just trying to finish my master's degree, and I had already started a job that I was working from home, and I was exhausted.
That gave me goosebumps just thinking about that like workload that you just described.
It was, and the funny thing was that I'm like, well, I can't ask for help. I didn't have family around. His family's not around, not really involved. And so there's a deep level of isolation. My boss said to me with my master's degree, I had my first guy when I was in the middle of my master's degree, and my boss was like, I'm so sorry, there's no maternity leave. You're in the middle of your degree, you're teaching for us. It's a contract. You signed the contract. I can maybe have someone cover your class for 2 days. So I didn't take any time off. I went right into it with my little guy. It was in the middle of the pandemic, which added another level of stress.
That was a whole thing that I can't even believe happened. But yeah,
that was the whole thing. So I had already was reaching levels of burnout. I was already pretty exhausted, and then adding another pregnancy to the mix, my body.
Did you have like? So you say the word burnout. Was there like physical symptoms that you had? Like what did burnout feel like for you?
I was really sick. I would catch everything that came my way. My immune system was really run down. I was exhausted all the time, and not just like, oh, I need a nap, but like, oh, I could sleep for like 14 hours and still wake up tired. And I started fainting. I was like, my body would just physically shut down because it was so tired. It couldn't function properly anymore. And so that's actually what happened. I was maybe 8 weeks pregnant at the time, 8 weeks pregnant. And I was carrying my then, what would he have been, 6.5-month-old, almost 7-month-old down our concrete stairs, trying to get my husband out the door. He worked usually 10-day stretches, 13 to 14-hour shifts. And so he was gone a lot. So it was just me. And I was trying to get him out the door, and I fainted, carrying our little guy down our cement stairs, and I landed flat on my belly, and I dropped him, and it cracked his skull. So he had internal brain bleeding, and we rushed him to the hospital, and the doctor basically chewed us up one end and down the other for being irresponsible parents, and was a very traumatic experience.
I'm here for help, not to like get slapped in the face or kicked while I was already down. Literally, literally down.
Literally down. So they told us that chances were he might not live because his brain was bleeding and they couldn't stop it. We lived really rural, in a very, very rural area, so they didn't have the resources needed. So they helicoptered him and myself to the nearest hospital, and I was just like begging the Lord, the universe, to just spare him. And he ended up, they took some scans when they got there, and miraculously his brain stopped bleeding. They were prepping him for surgery, brain surgery. And they think it's an anomaly. He made a full recovery. He has no problems, no developmental delays. He is a very vibrant, happy 4-year-old boy. And my other little guy was born, 7 months later. And he's healthy and happy and wonderful. And at that point, I realized this level of burnout it's going to kill me if I keep this up. My body can't sustain this. And who's paying the price for this expert, awesome level of motherhood? The do-all, be-all mom, my children, the very people that I'm trying to do it all for.
Have you received your trophy yet? Because I haven't received my trophy yet that we're all like fighting for, right? Like this perfect mom trophy that is coming to us at some point.
I love that. Yeah, it's apparently coming in the mail. It must have gotten lost in shipping for all of us.
Come on, Amazon. I am so sorry that you had to go through that. And I kind of not 100% can relate it to this. Please excuse this, how I'm going to describe this, but like it was like a rock bottom. And I'm sure within your parenting and just being a wife, you'd hit maybe several rock bottoms and didn't make the adjustments in your life that you needed to make. So we are continuing to receive the same lessons until they are learned and we change, right? I admit I had hit many rock bottoms during my drinking career. I got arrested and lost over $500,000 gambling, like lots of shit happened. And you'd think that those rock bottoms, I would have changed. Excuse me, my last night of drinking, I had 2 bottles of wine, half a 2-6 of whiskey, smoked some weed, and took lorazepam. And my final thoughts before bed were, how many of these little pills do I have to take? I have to take to end it all. I'd never been suicidal in my life. And then the next day, I literally woke up one day and changed my fucking mind. Right. So that's where my book came from. And talking about rock bottoms, my rock bottom was not all the physical shit and chaos and losing the money and getting arrested and all those things. It wasn't that deep, right? My rock bottom was I had suicidal thoughts before bed. Like that, there was just like a blip in time, one thought, and that was the rock bottom that changed the whole trajectory of my, excuse me, as I'm hearing you speak and just like the burnout, and you didn't just burn out, right? Like it had been a while of things happening in your life and being a new mom, getting pregnant again, and being there for your husband, that falling down the stairs, like that was literally your rock bottom from the way I'm experiencing you tell the story.
It was, yes. And that's what I think is so powerful. And you hit on so well. We have so many levels of rock bottom. And it's crazy how much pain we're willing to inflict on ourselves to avoid the pain of changing. That I think is so powerful.
About that in your book.
Yeah,
you do. You do. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's interesting how everyone's rock bottom is different. For some people, their rock bottom might have been way before mine. It might have been after mine. It might have been something that came later on. And same with your experiences and that huge, seemingly insurmountable thing that the addiction that many people struggle to wrestle with for the rest of their lives. Like your rock bottom was like, and I changed my mind. And
I had to.
Yeah, exactly. I had to change my mind. And it's crazy to me because I think it gives such a depth and a level of empathy. But those rock bottom moments are so hard. Especially when you're in the middle of them, you're like, and I keep going further down. How do I keep going further down?
Because the lessons keep being taught to us, but we're not picking them up. We're not taking action on what we're learning. So the universe is like, okay, well, you need this lesson again. Okay, here you go again until you fucking get it. You're getting this lesson. No, you kind of squeaked in here when you were telling your story about trying to get my husband out the door. I'm going to assume your husband's a grown man.
Yep.
Right? So even like right there, talking about like the burnout and all the things that mommies have to do for our babies, there's also like a wife component and being a partner in a relationship. Now, I'm sure you didn't carry your husband out of the house or hold his hand. Maybe he held his hand, I don't know. But just as you're telling a story, you put responsibility on yourself to get your husband out the door, right?
Yeah.
So I think as moms and wives, even though we're such caretakers and caregivers and just lovers, that maybe we can recognize that our husbands can maybe pack their own lunch once in a while, or they can walk themselves out the door, right?
It's so true. And I think it's something that, again, is instilled in us so deeply. I remember my husband, he's been taking care of himself, feeding himself since he was like 5 years old. He's very capable, very competent. And I remember him even saying to me, he was like, stop mothering me. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, the good wife is there to greet you when you get home, and we have to make sure that you have your meals. And like, I'm being judged by all of these things. And he's like, I'm not judging you. Who cares what anybody else thinks? And I think it's crazy how deeply ingrained in us that can go, that my value is tied in these social expectations of what a good wife should look like. Even post the feminist movement, where we're like, no, we've changed. I still talk to so many women where it's like, even like you picked up on the language we use, the phrasing we use.
You didn't even know you said it. I was trying to get my husband. I was like, wait, your husband's a man. Can he get himself out the door? Hang on a sec. I gotta, you're not getting away with that one.
No, exactly. It's crazy how embedded it is into our psyche, that it's like, oh yeah, this is what you do, and this is what it means to be a valuable member of society.
When you were talking about the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of changing, the wise man said that. Who was that wise man?
Yeah,
that was your husband.
Yeah, my husband. He's a smart cookie.
Yeah, that was your husband. I want to say that again. People only change when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of changing. You get to a point where you got to do something. You have to change your life. You have to change your thoughts to change your actions, to change the physical outcome of the trajectory of your life. Because if you don't, then, well, you're stuck. You just stay the same, right? Like, it's really not that deep. You stay the same. And if you want to change, you got to change.
Exactly. And if you want a different life, the first thing you need to do is make different choices and start to change yourself. So if you're not happy, you have the choice to change it. You have the power, everything you need within you to change that around.
Which leads, we're flowing through this book. Now, which leads to the perfect segue into this next section, chapter 3, identity burnout. Your old life won't fully fit into your new life, and that's okay. So I'm just going to read this. The past is a powerful tool. It educates us, provides us with memories, and reminds us of where we've been and where we're going. It enchants us and can encourage us to live deep within its embrace. However, constantly comparing the life you have now to the one you had prior to becoming a mother can leave you feeling frustrated, depressed, angry, and unsatisfied. You experience a monumental shift in the road. It is nail on the head with that one. It's impossible to move forward in our lives expecting the same results from the past. I think if we're not willing to make those changes, and we can get so stuck on our identities from who we were back then, but evolutionary wise, we are constantly growing. We can't fight it. We are constantly growing. We're constantly changing. So it makes zero sense for me to try to be a 23-year-old mother that I was to my firstborn to my 2-year-old who I had at 37.
Yeah.
Right?
And that expectation you put on yourself, chances are no one else is putting that expectation on you.
It's so true. It is so true. We're so hard on ourselves.
We are, and I think that's the biggest thing. Even through the whole journey of life, you're our biggest critics, and the biggest hater you have is often the one in your own.
It's so true. I talk about this, and like I've talked about this a lot. Who we are versus what we do is two totally separate things, two totally different things. Because what we do is our profession, and who we are is this part right here, like our values, our integrity, our soul, our love, our spirit, our kindness, our honesty. And we can get so wrapped up in the profession that we have that makes the money to pay the bills, which in an ideal world, they should work synergistically together so you can get paid for what you love and of being of service and like the soul food, right? But circumstantially, it doesn't always work that way. And you go on to say, culturally, North Americans root their identities in their profession. A person is defined not by who they are, but what they do. Therapist Dr. Kathleen Smith writes, one huge societal narrative in America is that having an impressive job title gives you more value as a human. That's sad.
It is, and I think it's something that I started to explore after the whole accident. I really started to dig deep and see, okay, what needs to change within me, and how much of this is me, and how much of this is the product of my environment, what I've been told my whole life about what it means to be a mother, whether directly or through subliminal messaging since I was a young child. And because the things I'm feeling are not a novel revelation. It's not this monumental new way of thinking. And I think one of the biggest things that I took away when I was researching for this book was the power of our culture and how it shapes the narrative and the work that we give ourselves, and how so many women, I'm not sure if you've experienced this talking to someone, they go, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. They almost say it like they're embarrassed.
I'm just a stay.
Exactly. Or I used to be, and they'll say what they used to be. Or I do this on the side. And the emphasis isn't on the fact that I'm raising the next generation. Here's a list of the 100 jobs that a stay-at-home mom or a part-time mom, part-time working, all the things that it encapsulates.
And can we take that just a stay-at-home mom out of the equation for a second?
Yeah.
If that just stay-at-home mom isn't just staying at home, what's happening to her children, to her household, to her family? If mom isn't just staying at home, Like
Yeah.
that hierarchy or that the family can collapse.
It's true. There's a reason that all of the folksy saying like the mom is the center of the home. She's the heart of the hearth.
Yeah.
And there's a reason because it really is hard for the home to run well if the mom isn't present and able to have the resources she needs to do all of the work that goes into it. It is a very demanding job. And the fact that we often feel it's not very worthy or a worthwhile pursuit of our efforts, I think is so heartbreaking because then it shifts the narrative to the fact that now you have to re-enter the workforce and the last 18 to 20 plus
Like they
years of
didn't
your life.
count.
Yes, it
Yeah.
didn't count. It was the best golden years of your life where everyone else was getting their career accolades. You were just wasting your time. And that's a
But
horrible feeling.
here's the thing: those people who are giving these accolades, and whether it be verbally or trophies at work or like little plaques that you can put on your desk, are those people there Christmas morning? Are they
Yeah.
there when the Easter Bunny comes or the Tooth Fairy? They're not. They're not. So the accolades, yes, they can feel good. You're doing good at your job, your profession. But what really matters is how your children and your family feel about the job that you're doing as a parent.
Yes. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think the core thing is whether you choose to work, whether you choose to be home, whether you choose to do some combination of the two. So my biggest thing is like do it with your whole heart, not because it defines your worth, but because you've decided that's what you need for your mental well-being, for your family, for you personally, not because someone's telling you if you don't do it this way, you're not good enough.
You said subliminal messaging from a child, which leads us to chapter 5, body burnout. If you're alive and a woman on planet Earth, you've likely been inundated with a million messages about your body from the beauty industry. After all, the beauty industry wants to make money. And what better way to make money than to sell the message you'll only be beautiful when using their products? One word, sell. They're literally selling you to sell you.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're selling this message to get you to buy their products. It's business. They're treating you, woman, man, whoever at this point, they're treating us as as a business transaction, to be honest.
Exactly. And it's a powerful self-image is such a powerful tool that if we convince people that they're not pretty enough, they don't look a certain way, they don't fit into what society wants, that fear can cause people to spend money that they don't have on products that they don't need. And that's a very powerful place to be in the market. And it's a really hard place to be, especially postpartum. You having 4 kids, you've been through
Like,
postpartum 4 times. It's a rough
yeah.
one. You don't look or feel your best. Your hormones are all over the place. Your hair is falling out. The chances are,
Like,
yeah,
and it's a thing. It's a thing. So I'm like a cat.
it is. And so I think what a time to experience body burnout because you're especially so vulnerable to that messaging
Yeah.
that you've received for many years. And now the body that you've been working towards or the look that you might have achieved or been struggling to achieve or never felt like you were good enough feels even more elusive after your body just went through this monumental change. And it kind of pushes us to, instead of exercising or eating a certain way because we love our body, we do it as a punishment.
I'm chuckling because that's literally my next tab.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, that's that. Okay, hold on. I got you. Number 3, I think we're in chapter 5, I said, off the
Yeah, I
top of my
think
head.
so.
I'm going with chapter 5. But exercise because you love your body, not because you hate it. I used to exercise like a machine. Workouts were chosen to maximize results, but not because I enjoyed what I was doing. I worked out because I wanted to change my body, not because I loved my body. Changing my perception changed everything. Workouts are now done as an act of kindness towards myself. They're performed from a place of love and acceptance over what my body is capable of doing now, and excitement over the strength I'm continuing to build. I now choose exercises that bring me joy. That every single woman needs to hear that message. Exercise because you love your body, not because you hate it. Where did you come up with this? Like, I call them brain wow moments. If I would have thought about that, I would have been like, brain wow. Like, that's really cool. That right there is deep. right there.
Thank you. I think for me, it was such a personal thing because, like I said in the book, I always exercised because I hated the way I looked, not because I cared about myself. And people would always parrot the message, you should exercise for health. And it's so good for your cardio and it's so good for your bone density. And I'm like, yes, that's what we know physically. But if you were to ask many people who are at the gym, I would love to do a random poll and be like, why are you here? And I want an honest answer. A lot of people go to the gym, especially New Year's resolutions, because you want to look a certain way. You want to look good for the summer. And the focus isn't really on, I care so much about my body. The focus is on, I need to look a certain
I need to
way.
change my body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You should do that poll.
I should.
I challenge you. Go walk into a gym, bring a clipboard, piece of paper, and be like, just doing a poll here for my next book, right? And then there you got some of your own stats.
There's some good
Now
data.
I'm going to leave it at chapter 5 because we're giving away a lot of information here, and I want you to get massively compensated for the work that you put in this book. So I want people to go out and get this book. Mommy Needs a Minute. Do you have, I always ask my guests this, do you have 3 to 5 things, we've tapped on a couple of them, you can repeat them if you want, of like tips, tricks, or quotes, or ideas, or thoughts that have really just kind of stuck with you over the years, or you're just finding them now that you can share as inspiration, or to bring some peace, or to help someone. Like one thing that stands out in my mind is every journey begins with a single step, right?
Yes,
so like, do you have anything that you could share with the listeners?
Thank you. I think that's a beautiful question and a great way to end. My biggest thing is often as moms, we're very self-sacrificing. We want to give everything to our families and our children, and we forget that our children are watching us and they're learning how to interact with the world based on how you interact with the world. So you're sending your children the message on a daily basis that it's not important to take care of yourself. Everybody else comes first. Doesn't matter how you feel on the inside because you put that aside and you pour into everybody else. And it's not okay to say no. You always give, always give. So when you're making choices and you feel like it's selfish to take time for you, or you feel like you don't deserve the minute, remember and think about how you want your children to value themselves when they grow up, what they want to value within their own lives. And if you want them to value themselves, you need to start valuing yourself and modeling for them on a daily basis.
I love that. And you mentioned 2 words there, take time. Sometimes you literally have to take your own time away from whatever is happening. We moved into our dream home and got this massive tub, and I am starting to take time to go and have a bath and read your book. And that was never a thing. Like just working in the home or doing whatever, working with my husband, and just working to complete exhaustion and making sure all the dishes were put away before bed, or the laundry, or whatever. And I can promise you the dishes are going to be there in the morning.
Yes.
Laundry is going to be right where you left it in the morning. It'll be there for you. So and you don't even have to get to that point of absolute exhaustion if you start to take the time to do your meditations, to do your stretching, to go for a walk by yourself, to pick up the phone and call your fucking girlfriend.
Yes.
Right? Like, just literally take that time. So, Alyssa, thank you so much for this conversation. I was really looking forward to it. And for our listeners, I'm so excited about this book. Go out and get it on Amazon and buy 50 copies, give it to your mommy friends, drop them off at the coffee shops. And I think every woman on the planet needs to have this book. So thank you for listening and watching if you're tuning in on YouTube. And as always, I hope the best day ever, and we'll chat soon. Until next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you found it enlightening, inspiring, and it puts a little pep in your step. Please be sure to like, comment, and share. Together, we can change the world. Until next time, I hope you have the best day ever.